everyone! I recently went thrift shopping and I found this minimal black satchel style handbag. And I thought it would make the perfect canvas to completely customize with my Posca paint markers. The great thing about working with Posca acrylic paint pens is that they can basically adhere to any surface with the right technique, including this handbag. So this will be my first time experimenting with paint markers on any type of accessory. So there will probably be a little bit of trial and error as we go. But first things first, I'm going to get started by sketching out the design that I'd like to put onto my bag, and I'm just going to start with a basic pencil illustration. I'll also go ahead and show you a close-up of the bag real quick and show you the interior of the bag as well. This is the faux black leather purse that I thrifted, and I was pleasantly surprised how good its condition was when I found it. It's also quite sturdy and has a nice solid structure to it with a wide flat surface to act as my canvas. I also thought the inside of the bag had a pretty unique pattern as well, which made me even more drawn to it. This is the sketch I created for my bag. I went with this Greek goddess, sort of a modern classical art style, and then I put these antique vases full of flowers with some wild strawberries at the bottom. I wanted to keep the design relatively simple as my Posca pens are a little on the thick side, and I wanted the illustration to be able to translate clearly. Overall, I think it came out super cute. To create a cohesive color scheme, I created a swatch panel with my selected Posca colors. I uploaded a picture of my design and lowered the opacity to create a digital illustration on top of my original drawing. I tried not to get too detail-orientated here as my Posca pens are the 5M medium size, and I wanted my illustration to reflect how it might actually look on the bag. You can also just create a color guide with a sheet of paper and some standard colored pencils. I find this part of the process really important because your color palette and color placement can completely change the whole look and feel of your design. Sometimes I have an idea of how something will look in my head, but it doesn't quite translate how I'd expect. Creating a color guide helps you to experiment with lots of color combinations and see what looks good before fully committing. Once I felt like everything had really come together and I was happy with the color arrangement, I changed the background to black to reflect how everything will look once it's illustrated on my purse. I grabbed some tracing paper for my design transfer, and then I took some screenshots of the exact size I wanted my graphics to be on my purse. I kind of just eyeballed this by holding my bag close to the screen of my iPad. I turned my iPad into a tracing table by using the guided access feature. This allows you to freeze your frame so your image doesn't move around when you're tracing it. I recommend having some sort of a screen protector if you do trace images off your iPad, just so you don't damage the surface. I am somewhat new to owning an iPad myself, and I actually didn't know that you could use this guided access feature to trace, but it has been really helpful ever since I've found this out. Before customizing your thrifted goods, it's always good to sanitize your items beforehand, especially so your paint has a nice clean surface to properly adhere to. To create a rough outline on my handbag, I'll be using this water-soluble pencil, which is often used for fabrics. I also grabbed these acrylic paint pens, which have a finer tip for adding those details. I'm using the brand Molotow One for All. Now, transferring my design was not the easiest feat. Normally, I would just transfer sketches with tracing paper and charcoal transfer paper, but the charcoal paper was just not adhering to the faux leather and I could not see my design at all. So I just cut out my traced images one shape at a time and outlined them on my purse with my water-soluble fabric pencil. The convenient thing about working with water-soluble pencils is you can just wipe them off with water later. Just be careful because Posca pens can also wipe off with water before they're heat set. Now I'm going in with my Molotow acrylic paint pens just to add a few finer details before going in with my colored Posca pens. Now it's finally time to break out the Posca pens, which is my favorite part. This is where your vision really comes to life and you get to see everything come together. And who doesn't love drawing with big, juicy markers? If it's your first time using these pens, make sure you shake them well before use and prime the marker by pressing the tip into paper until the ink flows. Keep a steady but non-excessive stream of paint fluid going. Certain colors, especially colors that are lighter, may take a second or third coat to reach full opacity. Just make sure your previous paint layer is somewhat dry before adding your next one. Any unwanted paint marks can be removed before you heat set your illustration. Just use a little bit of warm, soapy water and gently wipe clean. During the beginning stages of your portrait, it can be a little bit difficult to have the confidence that your vision is going to come together. I was feeling a little unsure of myself in this stage and was wondering if I was actually going to be able to get the look that I was initially going for. But stay optimistic and keep with your vision the best that you can. I have a feeling you'll surprise yourself on how everything will come together for you in the end. The small details and accents that you add towards the end of your process really work to enhance your final art piece. Overall, creating art is truly about having fun, so don't get too wrapped up in perfection and give yourself permission to play and have a good time. So I gave my bag a few days to dry before starting the final process, and that will be sealing the design into the bag. This is how she turned out, super cute. I love how vibrant all the colors came out, and it actually adhered really well to the fabric of the bag. This is a faux leather bag, and I'm just really loving how the design turned out. I also love that this purse has these little loops here on the side, so you could attach a strap if you wanted to, or you could put some fun, cute little keychains that would complement the design on the purse. So I bought this new product just to test out on my bag and see how it works out. This is the Angelus Flat 4-Coat Scratch Resistant Clear Coating. Yeah, I saw really great feedback of this product online. This is a clear coat that you can use over your customized projects, and it provides scratch resistant protection from the sun, color fading protection, just overall sealing in your design so nothing will happen to it after you are finished with it. Now it says in the directions that you can either paint this on with a synthetic paintbrush or you can airbrush this for a nice finish. And I have my paintbrush right here, so we're just gonna go ahead with that option. The really cool thing about this product is that there are many different types of finishes you can buy if you're going for a specific look. So you can choose the ultra high gloss finish and it has this really lovely sheen to it. You can try the satin finish, which has more of a subtle sheen but a softer finish, or you can go ahead and get the flat coat, which is just your standard non-gloss coating. Now, because Posca pens are water soluble until they are set, I am going to go ahead and set my design with a hair blow dryer for a few minutes before I paint on the forecoat. Using heat is a great way to keep your design in place and give resistance to running and streaking. You can use a hair blow dryer, heat gun, or an iron. Just look up the proper directions for each method. Make sure your illustration is completely dry before adding an element of heat to your project. It's recommended on the Posca site to stay about 30 centimeters away from your drawing when using a hair blow dryer to prevent cracking. It's also important to use even steady heat throughout your design and not spend too much time on any one specific area. Slowly move your heat source around the entirety of your image and make sure you're distributing heat in all the corners and lower areas of your design. I would say it takes between 2 to 4 minutes to fully heat set your project depending on the size of your artwork. After heat setting my illustration, I grabbed my forecoat and began the process of sealing in my design. This was my first time using forecoat, and after my first initial use, I realized that your first layer should be applied very gently when going over your design to prevent the design from lifting. I had a little bit of give on the bottom section of my bag, so even though your design has been heat set, it still has a little give if you're being too abrasive. Use nice even strokes throughout the surface. This method will prevent streaking and will help create an even coat layer. Paint the entire surface, not just the section that the design is on. I say this because the forecoat can change the sheen or coating of your bag. For example, the flat forecoat appears less glossy than the original faux leather texture that I had. Therefore, I painted the entire surface of my purse just to keep an even surface texture. Hey everyone, so I waited 24 hours for that forecoat to dry on my handbag. Overall, I'm super impressed with the quality and how the overall finish came out. This is what the purse looks like with the first coat of forecoat. I think the finish looks really nice. It has this really lovely, almost like a matte glaze over the top. All of the colors still look super vibrant and pop in contrast against the black background. This is going to prevent the purse from scuffing as well as cracking, and it will add a layer of protection from the sun. Overall, all of the pen work held up pretty well. I did lose a little bit of color on some of the green outlines, both in the leaves and in the strawberries. I'm not sure why that color specifically was a little bit spotty, but halfway through the drying process, I actually went over some of my green lines with one of my dark green Posca pens. So I'm going to use my hair blow dryer one more time to set some of the green line work that I had to go over. And then I'm going to put a second coat of the 4-coat just to give the purse that added level of protection. So now I'm going in with my final layer of 4-coat. You can really add as many layers as you would like. You just want to make sure that you give your final coat at least 24 hours to fully dry. You don't need to be quite as gentle with the second coat compared to your first coat, but make sure your brush strokes are still nice and steady and that your surface is even and smooth. Alright everybody, so I gave my bag 24 hours to dry out and let that forecoat fully cure on top of the surface of my bag. Overall, I'm really happy with the final presentation. I think that the product came on super clear, non-streaky, and there was very minimal bleed when it came to using it on top of the Posca markers. Here is the final presentation of the purse. You can tell that the colors stayed very vibrant. There were a couple spots that we had to touch up, but overall, I'm so happy with the quality. You can tell that it is non-streaky. The mat is actually a really lovely texture, so you can see a little bit of the contrast. Here is non-coated, so you can see it is a little bit more glossy. Now, if you're looking for a more glossy or satin finish, they definitely do have forecoat products that will give you that look. However, I really like this flat finish. I think it came out really crisp and overall really lovely. And this is on a faux leather surface, so you can see how great this works on any type of fabrics that would be within that category. I wanted to show you all something I had also been working on. I wanted to focus mainly on this specific bag in the instructional video on how to do this. However, I also thrifted a full genuine leather purse that I also decided to decorate with Posca markers and repurpose. So I wanted to show you how the forecoat sits on that as well. So this is another bag that I decided to upcycle. I found this at the Goodwill and I thought it was still in really good condition. It has this really neat strap with these holes and this really cool buckle here. This is a genuine leather bag and it has this really cool clasp, and you can pop in here and it has lots of pockets and zippers and these little buckles that the straps fit through here. So I decided to go with a colorful moth as my illustration on this bag. I think it's really vibrant and it contrasts really nicely against the black, and it has this really energetic, lively color palette that is really great for spring and almost has like a fun circus-like quality to it. It's very playful and I just really love how this one turned out. Now I went ahead and did a double coat on this one too, just so it is fully protected. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the texture of the leather and the texture of the front of the back so you can see how the flat forecoat sits on real leather. So you can see here, this is the back of the purse. I did not coat this at all, and it has more of a glossy sheen to it. However, this part right here is coated in the forecoat. So you can see the difference right here. This is way more flat and muted. This is a lot more glossy. I think it works really well how you can have like the contrast between the two, where this is more flat and then you have this gloss, and it creates really unique textures within one purse, so you can have different types of coatings on your bag. So this one here is the faux leather and this is the real leather, and you can see how they look. There's not too much of a difference between the two, just very minimal, but you can see that the forecoat really works well on both surfaces and adds that layer of protection to your custom goods. Thank you so much for embarking with me on this project. I am brand new to using Posca pens to upcycle, but I am really excited to start using this method more often. I think it's a really fun, creative, artistic way to express yourself, and it's also a great way to recycle. If you do decide to give this a try and get some Posca pens and repurpose some of your own goods, whether they be thrifted or things that you've had for a while, please let me know how that goes in the comment section. Also, if you have any questions regarding the process, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any and all questions that you have. Until next time, friends, happy crafting!